Okay, welcome everybody, regular city council, November 23rd, 7 p.m. We will begin, well, everybody's here, all accounted for. We'll begin with the prayer or thought by Dave Johnson, followed by the pledge.
Our dear gracious Father, and more by this night, and grateful that we have this opportunity to serve the community blindly. We pray that as we discuss the items on the agenda tonight, with some of the changes and other things that have come up with the budget, that they'll help us to be able to have good discussions about what options there are and that the council can be able to make some collective decisions, be able to help move forward in the best interest and utilize the taxpayer funding in the best way. Grateful for this country that we live in. We're grateful for the blessings that are bestowed upon us. And pray for thy love and watchful care and help us work through many of these things that impact those in our community. And so this in the name of Jesus Christ.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, okay. Anybody got any changes or comments on the minutes and agenda?
Motion to approve the minutes from the November 9th and the 16th meeting.
And the agenda?
Second.
Okay, it's Monson and Bowers, all in favor? Moving along, we only have 2 items on there that we couldn't possibly have much conflict with, so.
Sorry. It's dictating
No, that's
the mayor's word.
That's not tongue in cheek though, that's, we all have interest in it, especially the one recreation level discussion. If anybody wishing to address council on any issue this evening, we'd like to hear from you. We're almost all staff here, you're running out of chances. Okay. All right, moving along, I have nothing particular to report, anything from council.
We're still just working on the youth council stuff. I'm almost there to bring it back and have more of a discussion about it. I've talked to several other cities and kind of learned how they're doing everything. So once I get that all done, we'll bring it back and put it on the agenda to talk about.
Sounds fun. Yes. Okay, city manager reports.
So a few things. So you'll see the project status reports not in this packet because I was out of town, and so didn't include any updates there on that. But a couple things. One, we will have our new deputy recorder starting next Monday, as well as the new justice court clerk starting next Monday. So beginning at the first of the year, the new deputy recorder will actually be the one in the meeting taking minutes, and I'm sure some of you know John Marlin, who's going to be the new deputy recorder, and then a young woman named Keisha Lopez will be the new justice court clerk. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and is almost done with a master's degree in criminal psychology. And she's worked in the courts with the Ute Nation before, so it's awesome to be able to get her, both of them, quite honestly. So, but when they start, after they start, we'll have them come to me, I'm sure not many of this John. So, and then lastly, this is more of an FYI, we will be coming back to the council with a little more information on this. But Jason with the sheriff's office, getting dispatchers has become an issue. And so he's likely going to have to look at basically contracting out dispatching, which will impact us. And so right now, we're trying to look at how that might impact us, gather some numbers and more information so that we have more to go off of in a discussion. Probably have him come, if not the next city council meeting, in the following, kind of discuss the situation, so we can ask questions and work from there. But right now, we don't have a lot of information. We're just kind of seeing where things are out there and trying to gather more information. But it's been difficult to get dispatchers.
Well, question that I'll have, and obviously, I know you can answer it, but, are they looking to have Bluff help pay for that dispatching? Are they looking to have,
So that's some of the
Okay, for that, you know,
questions.
I get that we are the largest city in the county, and therefore might have more dispatching calls.
You're the only city that has a police force.
So, and actually that is one of the reasons why, and so if they contract, and we'll get into this more, but if they contract it out, it won't be based on who lives where, it'll be based on who then, if we have to contract our own dispatch, or do we subcontract it underneath the county? Those are some of the nuances we're looking at, and I'm trying to gather numbers as far as calls per service that we do, how the city limits, things like that, so. Yeah, and you're spot on. Those are some of the questions.
And it's likely to be, I mean, we're not gonna just do it easily. I mean, I think there's a lot of argument against doing it, including double taxation to our residents. And,
And those are some of the numbers I want to get for you.
right.
Yeah.
And it's a requirement for the county to do it anyway. We just don't have to have our own police department, we just choose to have our own police department. But they have to do it anyway if we didn't have a police department. So I mean, just so I want, from my perspective, I don't know how the other council members feel, but I don't think it's something we would take lightly or do easily.
I agree. You know, I was gonna hold off even mentioning anything until we had more numbers, but I just felt like I needed at least to give you a heads up.
And this has been brought up several times over the last few years, but if they're really pushing it now, because they don't have any money, and not like they have a ton of money either.
Well, and
That's
part of the
our
problem is not only the money, it's been just being able to find staff to do it. It's been part of the issue. And
So how are we gonna fix it?
Well, right now, all we have is a heads up. We do not have an agenda.
exactly, so this was more of a FYI.
So we can be aware and be thinking and pondering the question and knowing what those are, so we have some substantial.
And then any other updates that I have, actually, Kim and I and David will have some updates with regards to the recreation project funding. We've been trying to hammer away and get more information. So, other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay, finance, Kim Palmer.
Well, the council report's in there and the invoice register. Do you have any specific questions for me? I'm gonna expect to spell some of that out. You might have.
One question I had, I meant to ask you about earlier today when I saw it. On that first page of the financial report, fines and forfeitures, and it just says reflecting less than anticipated. I'm guessing that we might guess that that has something to do with some COVID stuff too, because there were actually less activity that was happening in the courts for a while. That should be taken off though and back to normal. So just a matter of when it's coming in. Okay,
But I thought the last time she did a financial report, we were actually higher than
that's
normal.
what I thought.
And that was a
So
big
it's just
part,
a matter
yeah, a big part of why we.
I think it
felt
has to do
yeah.
with the way that it was in the budget, it may be higher this month than it was last time. So I went and looked back at it over average, and we are down just a little bit from what we anticipated overall.
So it's mostly just timing issues, when these are actually coming in. Just the only question I have, other than, wait, there's another one. No, I answered that question myself. Anything else on finance?
Oh, if you have any questions, tell me.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, in the electric fund, the the operating expenses are $100,000 higher than the budget. Are you gonna have to do a budget change, or is that?
Well,
is
Part
there
of that,
a reason
and I
you
went
didn't
back-
budget for some of this stuff?
I'm glad you asked me because I went back and looked through that and see what might make that, make that higher than what we anticipated, and we did have some larger than expected, maintenance bills come in. There's more that was done back in July and August. And September, I think was higher, those were higher than we anticipated, and then because it was warmer, we purchased more electricity. So, I'm watching that cash flow in there, hoping that it will level out as we move forward through the year, but I did go back and look and see what those expenses were, and it seems like I listed something else along with there. There was a third thing on there,
Increased fuel costs.
yes. Yes, that seemed to be a big one on there, coming through the electric.
So for the bucket truck, for example, it was not an anticipated expense.
No, it wasn't, that was the other thing, was the bucket truck.
We're hoping it'll level off and
Yeah.
we'll maybe be able to buy less electricity.
I kind of
If
feel
not,
like
then
it,
we'll have to make an adjustment.
I kind of feel like, and I hope this is the case, is that we spent a whole bunch at the beginning,
Mhm.
and then it just kind of slows down again, and then we'll probably pick up a little bit more towards spring, early summer. I think kind of slow down, but I am watching that one because that was serious.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good on finance? Okay, so recreation project funding, you got us lined out with the law.
So I'll give you just
Here, so.
the highlights of what we were going back to learn more about. So, I'll cover those highlights first, and then we can maybe dive into questions or options. So, the first thing that, one of the first things we added here is, you could see a table that I added at page 17 of just kind of all those cost estimates that we received. And this kind of explains how we're getting that $300,000 to $400,000 range and why we're recommending, at least for the fire suppression, if you go that direction as a council. If you choose to do fire suppression, we would recommend budgeting, accounting for at least 400,000 for that option.
Well, but can you help me understand why one is 291,000 and the other one is 90,000?
It's because
Right.
I actually can't explain that. So the one that said if you see here,
Well, that
90,
was included 81,000 alarm, so they're twice the price, not 3 times the price.
so, the 90,000, if you split the other three about a 90 to 125,000, the company that gave us the 291,000, they said, just giving you an estimate, having not surveyed it, we're gonna give you like the highest possible estimate there. He said it'll probably be a lot less than that, but if there's every little thing that comes in, you need to be made aware of. He was the first estimate I got, and he's the reason why I went and got multiple others. So even if you took the 90,000 plus 45,000 that needs to be for a dedicated water line, plus, and I did talk to all the different companies, and they said for a new alarm system, it'd probably be around 80 to 100,000, so that one's not too far off.
Okay,
Plus another 50 to account for inflation, drywall work, we're still at the very minimum looking at about 267,000. And at the maximum, and if you go with the 291, you're talking over 400,000, but if you go with these other ones, you're talking about 400,000. So that's where we were getting that number. I just wish I would have included this breakdown, for the last meeting for you to see and understand that. So, let me just keep covering through some of the highlights, and then we can dive in like I mentioned. Let's see, the next one I wanted to talk about, if you look on page 22, I spoke with the state health department and our local health department. The state health department, I asked them just several of the questions that have been discussed here with council. And I said, please basically spell out the response for me. And they even gave us the required occupancy maximum for our pool. It's based on the size of the pool, not the deck. They clarified that for us. And at minimum, per state code, we are required to have 7 showers per gender, indoor showers per gender. However, they said that the local health official can come look at it and may reduce it, not eliminate it. Kim's been teasing, maybe they can reduce it to 0. I said, they can reduce it, not eliminate it. And so our local health official has come and looked at it, and he said he felt that we could reduce it down to 4 for each gender. So the next step with that is what we need to do, and obviously it's gonna have to come back to the council again. The next step is we need to get an estimate from an architect, find out how much it's gonna cost an architect to design that. That's the first estimate. And then the second estimate is, and then if you as a council approve that, once the architect does the work, then we need to get an estimate from contractors to actually do the work too. So those are the next couple steps. So this may take a couple more meetings regarding the showers. That's just kind of a heads up. So lastly, hopefully, I think these are the 3 main highlights. Baseball dirt. So with the place out of Cedar, we got a quote from them, and it was very similar to what we just received kind of over the phone a few months back. With delivery, not including the main baseball field, it's about $30,000. And that was relative to what we had discussed with them for 2 inches of fill, 3 inches of fill, about $60,000 without delivery. Well, I actually started with 3 inches of fill, not including baseball field. You know, you're talking, what is that, like 45 or something, and then so on without delivery. Now, I don't know if I want to say throwing a wrench in this because it's a good idea, but it could delay doing this. Terry said to Kim while I was out, he said, you know, with his background, his engineering background, he actually knows how to create dirt mixtures, and he could potentially do that. His only concern is he's already maxed out on projects in his time. So my concern from just a manager's perspective is I don't want to do what we did with the shade structure, think that we could do it internally, and then it delays it another month or 2, only to not do it. But that is a viable option that potentially we could use local dirt, and if he can come up with whatever is needed, that's something that we can look at.
If he did that, could you do like 1 field at a time or 1 field?
That's what I would say, if we look at that, maybe try it.
We'll try one and see how it
Yeah, and
works.
see how it works out.
And if not, then we could, and we could even do that same approach with this.
I
And even if
I
we-
would use this first for 1 field maybe, and then see if Terry's, make sure it works.
So you're saying do Terry's mixture?
Well, I mean, how long would it take for you to do that? I mean, how busy is he? I mean.
I don't know,
That's what I.
he's out of town this week, and that's what I need to talk to him about. I need to find out how long will this take? Because if it's gonna take us another 3 months, if it's only another month, that's more
Yeah.
feasible, but
Yeah, that's, no, I guess. How does a cubic, yard compare to a ton? Is that about even?
Oh dear.
we're not the engineers, I'm sorry.
When I talked to Rockers, they gave me the price in cubic yards, not tons, and you got it in tons here.
They gave us the price in cubic tons, so, or, sorry.
I just put a conversion on
in,
the phone, looked like they were pretty similar. But when I talked to them, they were much cheaper per yard.
Depend on
Well-
what product you're hauling.
I put in dirt.
So what he told me was, when I talked to Terry after we got these numbers, because I had the same question, as I thought, well, council's gonna want a total, they're not gonna want just to know how much the bid was, because $35 or $55 a ton, what does that even mean? So I went to Terry and he did some calculating and measured everything out and figured it, and he said he went with a mixture that was kind of sand, clay. I mean, he picked something that he thought would be really similar.
And suitable.
And yeah, and so he said that the other thing was that weight will change based on how much moisture is in it
Mhm.
and what they actually provide. So these are just estimates, but I think that you have to look at what the cost is to deliver that. Because I did the same thing you did. I got on the website and tried to pretend like I knew what I was doing, but he had some big, long calculation that he handed me, and then I made it work in
Well-
the spreadsheet with him.
Well, no, I talked to Rocky, I mean, and we came out, I got about the same.
Where's
numbers.
Rocky Ridge located?
Cedars.
I got about the same number of square feet, I don't know, anyway.
Did you do it in an inch or 2 inches?
2 inches.
Yeah.
I have the calculation he used if you want to see it
Okay.
afterwards.
Yeah. I can do that.
So I guess we're just looking for, well, I guess first I should say is the council okay with us, at least with, the showers moving forward and getting an estimate from an architect to do that work?
What
Yes,
are we looking
because,
at on that cost?
Yeah, we're just figuring out what it would
What's it
cost.
gonna cost for
Oh,
us
for-
to figure
for
out
the
how much
architect?
it's gonna cost?
Yes, exactly.
Four showers.
4 shower, it's 8 total,
Per
so, yeah, per gender. So, yeah, so the next step is just for me to find from an architect, what would it cost you to, or what's your estimate for doing the design work on this? If the council's comfortable with that, I know we can move forward on that.
and I do appreciate that you asked the health department if they would give us time, because construction lead times, there's no way that, even if we made that decision tonight, I don't think that we would have showers
Agreed.
by opening day.
I absolutely agree. I mean, because that's what I wanted to know. I'm like, there's no way we're gonna open it by day of, what can we do temporarily? And that's where they say we can work with our local health department. And Ronnie Neves is new in the position, but he's already been really good to work with.
But my concern too is that they won't allow us to just keep dragging it up. You know,
You're
like
right.
they're going to say, well, if there's not movement on this, then we'll shut you down.
Well, I think it's similar to what we as a city do with those that we're working with code compliance. We say, okay, you need to do something by this. Here's some deadlines, but if you're working on it and you can show that you're doing things, we'll continue to work with you. And I have every confidence that the county health department's gonna do the same with us, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right, so we've got, do I have
How do
consent?
you guys comfortable with him going to an architect? I mean, I do think that is the next step.
Well,
But we
leaving,
need to know how much that's gonna cost too,
Right.
because it's not gonna be more than the construction cost.
well, leaving off from the last meeting, we kind of said, okay, let's move on the dirt. We don't know exactly what that'll look like, but we can figure it out and do it. And this was just a concept, it wasn't a decision. And the other one was to move forward on the pavilion, because we thought within the budgeted amount, the project's original, that there was that amount set aside. We could get those two done in the budget, because they're small ticket items. The two big ticket is showers, which we have to do. But that we need to do to be compliant. The sprinklers, we don't have to do, we may choose to do at some point. So what I'm looking at here is we still move forward on the dirt, we still move forward on the pavilion.
The only
The
thing-
showers, we keep moving forward to learn what that means, and we work it into the next budget. And the sprinklers, that's long term, that's a capital project that we put out there.
What is that?
If we choose to do it,
That just limits our.
how long do we,
Attendance,
how long do we, how long,
Yes.
where do we put it on the plan and make a financial plan to arrive there? That's kind of my overarching, what I felt like we came away from the last meeting, and I don't know if that's really substantially changed by the information here, we have more information. But does that, I guess, still kind of carry, does it look like a viable solution to keep that moving?
So my concern was just carrying forward just putting on the capital project, the sprinkling system, is that it limits the people who have used that facility in the past, who may not be able to do it again, bringing in wrestling tournaments and basketball tournament, the sportsman's banquet, things like that, that there's no play, that sportsman's banquet brings in a lot of money to the city lot. And, there's nowhere else to hold it. So I don't, the reason I'm saying this is I don't know if we just want to keep carrying that on forever. I think we need to decide if there's a way to fit it in, and I don't know, I'm almost at the point where just knowing about the showers now, which is unfortunate, but here we are with this mess. That we may not want to do the pavilion.
I would say that would be my recommendation, especially given the potential costs that may come up with dispatch as well, but that would be the pavilion would be nice and it would be a nice visual win, but I think there's some
That's
other,
the hard thing.
yeah.
I want to do it, don't get me wrong, I'm
Yeah.
very frustrated.
No, that's a
Getting
good,
back to
that's a good thought, to
frustration.
be a
I
little
would-
more
I would-
cautious there, so we would see what we find out, so. yeah.
What with the, I know we've talked about this probably more than any of us want to ever talk about it again, but the sprinkling system and the alarm. We have to have the sprinkling system to increase the capacity at the level 7.
Yes,
We do not have to have the alarm. It's not required to
No.
increase the occupancy, but we're doing this, so it kind of makes sense.
the
to do
new
it together.
systems may not work with our alarm. That's
Because
what,
it's 10 years old.
that's what
That's
most of
what
them said, it likely is not gonna work with the new systems, which is why we're saying we should probably at least account for that.
And the alarm is a fire alarm.
Yes, right, it's part of the whole fire suppression system.
It could be a burglar alarm.
It blows my mind that they would give you a quote for a fire system and not a way for the fire system to turn on. In a quote, even if it's.
It must be plumbers instead of alarm
Well,
companies.
no, they're not even dedicated, they didn't give us a dedicated water line. I guess that's our.
Well, yeah, they don't,
They don't
and I
know that.
tried asking them, and they like, not all of them said we don't do that. So,
And, okay, some feedback. I really like what Kim did with the dirt and gave us totals. I don't like that. I know that we're not really in a place to make a decision on the fire, but we have to pull out our calculators and add those up to get a total. And that's hard, it's just hard to do.
Well,
Like when we're
yeah,
having a discussion, so it'd be, like, I like that the dirt had, this is what it's gonna cost you for each one. This is, because really what would have been useful or helpful, this is just, maybe I'm the only one, but, would have been to show all of those numbers over to the right, I guess,
I'm sorry, I thought,
including the dedicated water line and including an estimate for
I had a
drywall and
totals,
everything.
I thought I had a totals column, so I apologize.
Just
I
because
agree with
we're
you.
sitting here going, how is that 300 to 400,000?
well, I added up and we're like, almost like 500 to 300,000.
You're right.
So,
You're right, and that top one would be over 500, and all these other ones are just under 300 or close to 400. But I apologize, I didn't even notice that totals column wasn't in there, so.
well, then what
It's just
confuses
helpful
me
and
on it too is where it says it's not included, makes me think, well, we don't need it with that, because maybe it's included in that.
Meaning,
So,
they didn't include a price in their estimate, and so what we were using is this two city estimates in there for that.
So these ones that are lower, are they, is it go through the drywall? Or is it above,
You're talking out of the
out
drywall.
of the drywall?
All of these are in the drywall.
Okay. So they come in, they tear out the drywall, they fill it, and they leave?
Yeah, they don't do any drywall. Yep,
Well,
exactly.
Probably because they're doing a remodel, that kind of
Typically.
a thing. So if it was new construction, they'd come in and do it, and then the drywall would come across and cover it in. That's probably why they just don't mess with that.
So you want me to, I can just tell you the quick numbers on.
why, it's 468,859 for the Delta. Preferred is 302,310. Summit Fire is 282,310. And the Paradise is 267,300.
Were you calculating that at
That's
80,000
with
for the alarm?
That's the 81,570 for the alarm, 50,000 for the drywall, and the 45,740 for the alarm.
Honestly, I'm sorry, I thought I had the totals column there. I agree with you. That would have been helpful.
Next time there
We
will
got-
be one, when we get to talk about it again. Just kidding.
That's why I didn't put those exact numbers in the description.
Well, so let's talk dirt though, since we don't really have any idea.
Dirt about.
You. So we're looking at to do all of the fields would be 40,000 with 2-inch fill.
If you cut out the baseball
Yeah,
field,
that'll
it's
be
about
the
eight.
baseball
They
field.
just cut theirs, they just redid theirs.
Which is BB, the top one that's like,
Yes.
so, okay, so
Like 30.
we're looking at 35-ish.
They just put that in there to give you perspective.
Now, remember that this could change because of the weight of the.
Right.
Terry based that on 115 pounds per square foot, so. Until that's loaded, we wouldn't have.
We'll just do one at a time.
I would recommend that.
I don't have as much of a hard time about doing it if we try one and see. And then I really would like the idea of doing this since we know, seeing what that looks like and then seeing if we can free up some of Terry's time potentially.
If you give him a lead time to do it, we could probably work it in, but. right now
Because I
we
do
just-
like the idea of using local dirt because then moving forward, we could do it again for the other ones.
Transportation's a lot less also.
Exactly.
Well, you also could,
So
going forward, when you gotta replace her again, you just have to do one.
you utilize that.
Can maintain that.
We got-
So,
We got Brett with the comment.
Mayor, can I suggest maybe, you're talking about doing one field at a time, but that might change your cost of shipping and everything else, because if these guys are looking at, if we're doing this amount of tonnage, we'll sell it to you or we'll ship it to you at this price. And if you change that from, this amount of volume or whatever to a
That
lesser
is something
volume,
that we should
then they
look
might
at.
jack the price way up, so you might not save much to do one field at a time.
Well, it's a good question to ask. My experience with this kind of stuff is they have a cost per ton and they have a cost per ton delivery.
Well, that's when I talked to them, they gave.
They don't care if you buy 1 ton or 90 tons.
that was
That's
my
the cost.
impression.
When I talked to them,
But it is a valid
that's the
question.
impression I had.
Because they didn't have the conversation.
Yeah, is there a volume
They're not
discount and does that offset the delivery charge? And normally.
You're definitely gonna wanna clarify that and make sure.
Right.
I would recommend, if you wanted to try one field, I was thinking, which one's the middle field, is that number 3?
So I would do number 2.
That'd be softball.
It's the one that's
That's the
used
one I
for the
would
high
do.
school
That's
and
the-
us. It's
Okay.
used more, it would make more sense if we're gonna do one to do that one next.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
So-
for asking.
Okay,
Couple
so
thanks for being here to answer questions.
Start,
About dirt.
Couple things, we have consent on the showers, to get an estimate from the architect.
Yes.
Agree with that? Okay. Do we have a consent to move forward with one of the baseball fields, or is it first we want to talk to Terry?
No, let's move forward. Well, I say, let's move forward with this, but also give Terry the lead time saying we would like
You know, look at
him
this?
to map out some time within the next 6 months or whatever it's gonna be.
I think they do that if we get that kind of.
Like, you can be ready.
Let me ask you, David Palmer.
I mean, if you're doing 6
He might
months,
be ready, but the dirt installed might not be.
I mean, you're 6 months, you're looking right in the middle.
right, it needs to be done before this next season.
Is this softball field or both, or what?
Well,
Well,
both, the
high
softball
school
field needs,
starts
it has to be
first,
done
which is
sooner, yeah,
in
sooner,
March,
the high school.
yeah,
field
very end of
starts
February, the
March.
very first.
So field number 2 needs to be done first, but field 3 and 4 should be done before June, the June season. I guess it's May, even some of them.
I would say let me talk to Terry, and the next council meeting, I can tell you what feasibility and timeline is of him putting something together and us doing that other option.
Move on one regardless.
Yeah.
Well, I
Is
kind of,
this a solution that you like as director?
Yeah, I think it's great because it makes sense to do field 2 first, just because it's a dual purpose field, the high school and us. And I mean, we have those 2 fields that are used for the high school, which brings in a lot of people from out of town, everything else. those two should be our premier fields, and only one is. So bringing that other one up to speed first, I think is great, because that,
So we
once
move on-
we figure,
move on to
and we may
one.
run into problems with that we can answer on the ones moving forward, but that would be a great
And that's
start.
what I feel.
What
I feel
happens
like-
when we start and run into problems and the softball field doesn't have a field to play on? Because we're doing the one,
They moved to the hardest rock dirt field.
because they're different sizes down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be able to plan the other two.
Well, they could work it out.
Mm,
Just wouldn't be the best.
I think regulation, they have to have a certain, yeah, I thought they had to have certain regulation distances.
Well, the fence, they use a temporary fence, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
But they use it, they put up a temporary fence for some of those.
So they-
That would be a last decision, but it could work if we absolutely had to, of course, we wouldn't want to.
I think Kim had a question.
I do have a question. So we're looking at just the cost for the dirt here. You need to consider the removal of the old dirt, the installation,
No,
all
no,
that kind of stuff will be on top of that.
there's no removal of the old dirt. There would be preparing the ground for the new dirt, but we don't have to remove it.
They,
I had extensive conversations.
so Cedar said we didn't have to remove it.
I'm
Yes.
just wondering if there's.
Not only that, the
additional
best
cost
thing,
on there.
there was two options. We could compact what's there and level it because it needs some work and use that as a base. But the better of the two options would be to till it and bring up some of the natural clay that's underneath it to mix that base before we put on their product, which would be the better of the two things. And that's simple, a deep plow, but we don't have to remove anything because they're already several inches below grade.
If
So-
you, if
so
you
that
did something like
helps.
that, could you do like an inch of dirt rather than two even? I mean, if you're bringing in.
They wouldn't want to do that with just 1 inch. I mean, just for the bonding and everything else, if we're spending the money and then just half-ass the final product, I think the 2 inches is, excuse me, but I didn't know any other way. to explain it.
Let's talk about it timing. He doesn't want to do it half fast.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Then we won't be done. in time.
So would your staff be able to do that tilling, or would we be contracting that out?
You will have
we-
coaches.
Yeah, we don't have a tractor. I have a personal tractor I'd be happy to use, but I know that there's coaches though, that have used, yeah, we don't like using other equipment. We have in the past, there's been some passionate coaches that used for the high school because we have a joint use agreement. So if the agreement, this is a legal thing that I have to refer to Dave, but we've used some of the high school coaches stuff in the past on fields that they're using as kind of a,
If we could coordinate something with the school district in utilizing their equipment in our facility use agreement, then that would be fine. We definitely don't want people to use their personal equipment.
Well, that may happen. They may need to. I mean, I completely, if they have to come in and somebody in town who has a tractor is willing to let them use the tractor for free because they want to see the field upgraded, we may end up doing that to save money.
I'm just saying, if anything happened, our insurance wouldn't cover that.
Is there any drainage under there before you go plowing and killing that dirt that we're gonna destroy?
There wasn't when they did
the product that
the
is there now is already, it's designed for drainage. By adding some clay, it just helps it bond better, but it's still gonna have some drainage. We don't have to haul anything out.
There's no material, there's no mesh under there that's keeping,
No,
separating layers?
there sure shouldn't be.
There wasn't when they did the baseball field. I think if we can get the dirt here, I think the school district and the coaches can work together to get the dirt installed. That's what I've been told from the coaches and the staff and the school district.
And ideally, we want this to happen before practices start and all that, so that it does need to kind of be prioritized that way. I mean, I know ground's gonna end up frozen here, like right now, so that makes it hard too, but,
Did you ask them about that?
but I feel like we need to be able to use it a bit to see how it's working before we move forward on doing another field. Do you know what I mean? And so that's part of why I'm saying, maybe 6 months for Terry, just because we've got to see how happy we are with that field, to be able to compare it then to what he can come up with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, no, that makes sense. I think we'll know by March, mid-April, if they like it or not. So we're assuming that Terry can make a similar product to her blending in. And actually, I would say let's go forward with all of it, but I like what you said about, and maybe if we can do it here, then that could save us in the future a lot of hauling costs. So otherwise,
So I'm hearing a few things. I'm hearing, let's do one field and give Terry time to figure this out and maybe do the other fields later. I'm also hearing, let's do all the fields in time for the season. So I just want to be
I think
clear.
we can do them all in time for the season. You're right, if we like the product. If they end up playing on it and it's a mess, then we may not be able to get it done in time for the season. But if they play on it through mid-April and everything's going well and the coaches and the city likes it, then we may be able to get the other ones done in time. I would, if we're gonna do this, it would be nice to get it done before the next season. All the fields. It doesn't mean there couldn't be hiccups that could change that, but I think that's what we, in my opinion, we should move forward with.
Okay, I would say it's okay. I still really want to talk to Terry and see what he feels like.
But we're getting this dirt for the field too.
Yes,
So
that's,
this is
We're gonna do one for sure, and then we'll figure out a little bit further down the line about.
Did they have a timeline, this Rocky Ridge?
No, they can get it to us right away.
So what we would need then as part of that, our baseball community, we would need them to come out essentially, David, right?
Sorry, could you repeat
So
that?
when we're installing that dirt, we would need help from the baseball, probably volunteers. It would have to be overseen by staff. Staff wouldn't even be there, but we would welcome volunteers.
And leveling the existing product is more than just like, eyeballing.
Right.
Takes a little bit of skill.
Well, at one point, someone said that they had talked to, I don't know if they talked to Jones at the mill, if it was Sonberger, who it was that had.
Jimmy Johnson mentioned that, but that was
Somebody-
over a year ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than that now. When I first got here, he told me it had been a year since he had had discussions about that as well. So, but I think that, David could reach out to Jimmy and Helen and others to maybe coordinate what we can do for volunteers and figure out a time. The only issue is, let's do it before it's too cold, or we're gonna have to wait until it warms up. And I would say it's better to do it now. So, and this is well within, no, we do have budget for it. It is well within my administrative authority to just take care of it. Exactly, and it's budgeted for, that's right. So we can move forward on field 2, we said.
Yes.
So can I make that call first thing in the morning and get them to,
Do we have consensus on that?
My only other question, is there a local, truck company like Crosby that might be willing, who has daughters that play softball or granddaughters? Or would they, have we talked to them? Have you at all talked
I haven't, I know Cosby's brought up that they're Phoenix for the baseball field.
to them? Right.
I think Jimmy had talked to Cosby's as well.
I think we know that it's gonna be, we know that it'll be the 6,000 whatever. If Cosby can do it for the difference or less than that, I think I don't know. Right, I would rather pay someone local to do it if they're gonna do it for the same cost or less.
I don't wanna slow it down, but they're pretty, Crosby's are really good. And
Right.
they may be able to run down and get it for us at that same price.
So there might be someone else other than Cosby that I don't know.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they're like, this is the person who does it all the time, which is great, because they've always been helpful, but.
Council, I'm sorry, one thing that Kim just brought to my attention is, because of the cost, even though it's within the administrative authority to approve it, there are other companies that provide this, so we would need to first get an updated bid from the Edge company, before we give a green light for David to call.
State purchasing policy, I don't want to get thrown into
So,
the
and I appreciate
Well,
it.
and I don't wanna slow it down either, so maybe for this first build, we should just move forward with it after we get the second bid. And and then we could work with some other local companies.
Well, I think we have to wait for the second bid anyway, so maybe we do call those trucking places tomorrow and do that part tomorrow.
Just remember it's Thanksgiving.
Okay.
We'll try, we will call, but I don't know if we're gonna get a hold of anyone until next week.
So I'm just saying, like, instead of us waiting for the second bid, let's start with maybe
Keep moving.
getting
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
local people say, can you bring it to us for?
I mean, you know how many square feet, yeah, you're home. It'd
So
be
I
nice to give that money locally if we can.
I would say, David, then, if the council look into this, let's call Durex tomorrow to get a bid on doing fill to their 2 inches of fill delivered. Get that bid from them. And without delivery.
I just sent you one that they got for the basements of Phoenix, do you want to call it stabilizer, what it's called?
It
That's a
is
good
good
idea.
to have 3 bids.
I agree, yeah.
It's a 12.
I say 3 inches, you'd be better off than 2 on these fields if you want it to be better.
To last
I think
longer.
2 inches is gonna give you not much.
Was,
That's what the baseball field did.
they did 3?
No, they did 2. That's my understanding.
I would say that is a fair point from long-term viability, yeah. But
But if we're gonna be doing it ourselves at some point and have that maintenance anyways, is that extra inch gonna be cheaper for us long term for us to do it ourselves, if that's a solution that works? Those are all things we don't know, is the problem, I guess.
We can answer those questions while we move forward on the bid and controls for freight. So when we get that information together.
So when we get the stuff from other people, I think we need to follow what we have here as far as delivered, not delivered, 2 inches, 3 inches. Like, I think that if we could get 2 more like this, we'll have ourselves covered if we decide to work to be delivered or not delivered.
So I comment that your budget is 30,000 on that.
Okay,
so let me,
and that's part of why I'm like, we can't really do all 3 of them
right,
with delivery, you know? And that's why we kind of need to take it slow and figure
Well,
out.
it's almost exactly 30,000, it's 32,000
with delivery.
with delivery. I mean, so it's pretty
Oh, that's
close.
right.
We need to do the first.
But that's not even in the budget, is it? Like, because we were planning grant fees, right?
Yeah,
So this
But-
technically isn't.
well, it's,
We
but
did
because
budget
it's budgeted for, if we get a different revenue source, that's okay.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, this is something that CBDG can cover. It's a community-based activity that's free as well. So we looked at that for fire suppression, but
when's that due?
February,
January.
January.
Could you just put in an application for that with the council?
Yeah. Well, because it can be, we can use it for anything community-based, but the fire suppression was our first
But
option.
we don't, I mean, we don't want to wait on getting this done, but potentially that, like, if we receive that grant, then instead of, then this money gets pushed into maybe looking at the fire suppression system.
So
instead
that's,
of paying for ball fields.
that's actually the direction that I've given Pratt is, let's look at the fire suppression system for that grant, because it's just a bigger cost, if we get more dollars.
And do you
And
think,
we can figure out.
do you think we
baseball.
or do you think we could get both?
They're
Yeah.
looking at, I don't think we could get both.
We'll talk. I just,
Okay.
it was an idea.
But that, no, I'm glad you brought that up. So let me recap everything collectively.
Yeah.
So consensus on the architect estimate, consensus on,
Field number 2.
field number 2, moving with field number 2. Consensus on holding off on the fire suppression system. And we'll just keep looking at potential funding options and things until the council wants to bring that back. Do we have consensus on holding off on the pavilion? I didn't hear consensus on that.
And I think what's best for the city, getting the sprinkling system done in that facility seems to me like that's a higher priority than it
I think it's more bang for the buck, getting
is in charge.
rec center
And
where we can use it. I mean, what do we get on sports and site with 400 plus people there?
Yeah. They're spending a lot of dollars. Yeah.
What other
but it's one time a year, but that's.
Once
what
a
they-
year, and then I
there's
wonder
a
how the money,
rest-
like, how much is it really benefiting us? Because most of them aren't staying overnight,
They are,
are they?
yeah, they
Okay,
are.
good. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't have
Yeah.
anywhere to keep them overnight.
Yeah, they are.
And they don't, so they eat the meal that's there, and if they're staying overnight, I guess they're probably dining out.
And then they go to
They
Reds
hire
and they
local
get their,
people to cater.
they go to Reds and they get their gun the next day. So most of them do stay overnight, and so they're eating breakfast and lunch. I was shocked at how many people stayed here at the hotel this year.
Okay.
For that,
And
it's
just the
huge.
sports things that we do there too.
Yeah, the rest, the number of people that they bring in,
Honestly, I would say.
That's-
too-
I just think
Position
$400,000
to
or $500,000 is outrageous to put a sprinkler system in.
totally agree.
And that's why we're struggling so much with it, because it's the city's money.
Yeah.
It's taxpayers' money.
And that would drain
Oh, yeah.
everything.
But that's what we're saying, that's why my recommendation would be not to do the pavilion, and I have to look Carol Laws in the face and tell her why, but we're left with a difficult decision.
So we can put that on the capital plan.
The pavilion, yeah.
Yeah,
Next
but-
year or year after.
Well,
The nice-
budget wise.
This one,
everything
we
else
have
is-
Hey, we're getting one thing off.
So that's what I was just gonna get into is,
If there was veto power, I would say I would veto spending all of the savings on this project this year. I would say over my dead body. You gotta have some time to have some financial planning or funding sources. in
Well,
addition,
that's 10 years worth of savings.
You know,
Maybe that building, that.
no, but I'm not
building
saying
can help
10
it, so.
years, but this year, no. I mean, you don't take your savings to zero.
so on that
This
note,
year.
us
You
collectively
just don't.
as staff have been working, as we mentioned several months ago, on putting together that more thorough capital projects planning.
Yeah,
And Terry put together, because he had to do stuff for his department anyways, and he had multiple divisions, and he put together a great spreadsheet, and Kim and I saw that, we're like, let's just use that spreadsheet for everything. So Kim's been plugging in numbers, and then that'll be like our behemoth internal document, and then we'll kind of simplify that down. But it will help guide us more, in our capital spending, what we're putting in each year to everything. So that's more of an overarching thing, but that is something, at least we'll start bringing drafts to you here in the next 6 weeks or so.
My hesitation with all of this, every single piece of it, is what are we missing? Because we've drilled on this for so long, the fire system, the dirt, the this, and we've drilled on, this is how we're gonna do it, and this is the funding of it, and are we missing things? Are we looking, too far? Are we not looking far enough? Because we've been so focused on these.
You're saying missing other things outside of it?
That and just within it too, like, are there programs to help with we applied for the grant and didn't get that, and so we tried there, but are there other things that maybe we're missing that can help us with some of
That's
this?
what Pratt was talking about. Those are some of the things. We are still trying to look at other potential options. It's just, we don't want to bog you down with every little thing that we're trying to look at, because there's a lot of dead ends.
Well, it feels a little bit like
We're
we,
built with grants.
right,
We're built with grants specific to baseball, fields. There may be some out there that.
yeah, and those are hard to find, so I'm not saying it's,
Right.
we're not doing our jobs by not finding them, because they're probably a little harder to find.
But I agree with you
And
that
this whole thing has felt like we've been digging, and every time we dig something else up that's costing us more money.
it's just a treasure trove.
Right, and we're not finding any treasure. We're digging ourselves a deeper hole at this.
So I guess Kellen, I didn't hear a consent what you thought on the pavilion.
I still have time, next year.
That's
what, 70 grand?
I think the pavilion and the shade structures that hopefully will help pay for the shower.
right?
But I don't know how you do that, because there's no way I'd vote to put that. Not showers, not sprinkler systems, not, I was gonna say.
So
We keep looking for whatever funding sources we can get while we accumulate our own money towards that. And at some point, we found this, and now it's, and that's when we can pull.
Yeah.
If you can move your capital, you can put it on the capital projects and you start working towards the other sources. And when we get them, we go.
Can you use the COVID funding to use for the showers? For,
They talked about that a long time ago.
Yeah, way on over there. If you don't,
That's the first thing we looked
if you
ARPA.
ARPA funding is closed down what you can use it for, marketing and water and sewer infrastructure.
you might use it for the water line.
And market the bathrooms.
No, like,
city infrastructure.
yeah, like underground, water, you know. water.
Have we, when does the RFP for the recreation master plan, what's the timeline on that?
Like January 11th, it's that second
We
Friday.
give them a lot of time
January.
because it's the holiday season.
Yeah, typically you give them 4 to 5 weeks, but with Thanksgiving and Christmas being 2 of those weeks, we make it more like 8. It's like an 8-week time frame, but 2 of those, no one's gonna be working on a grant or an RFP, so.
So what does this fire suppression do to the sports and bank? Does it limit?
It means we can't hold it.
You can't hold it?
We more
Yeah,
limits.
that's that.
Yeah, it limits to 299.
Well, let's say put up tents outside, and stuff outside.
Is that a legal issue or is that just gonna rotate for this issue? It has been held at the gym at the high school.
It's a will.
Almost the same floor space, I guess. So it's not impossible to have.
Does that make the,
If we can accommodate it. Like,
It is the will take those.
I mean, at this point, no one's gonna come in and do that kind of work in that kind of time anyways. What happened in March? Yeah.
because I just see this as a piece.
So I think we can make those decisions when we know how much the showers are gonna cost. Because right now, if we don't do the shade structure in the pavilion, you know, we have enough to put in the fire suppression system. Maybe not finish it, but do that, but now the showers are gonna probably cost the same amount, I would imagine. I don't know where they're gonna put it.
What kind of cost do you look at when
Some of
you
the
just ask
changes
an architect for?
Probably. There are changes in there.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so you just really take half the change.
So I need to say,
That's another thing that I'd be worried about.
what's your estimate on the design work?
To make it more expensive.
All right, so we settled, at least, we know what we're doing next week.
I just, appreciate the feedback, because this has been kind of stressing us out, and I'm sure it's stressing you out, but we want
But at this point, I just want to make it clear, the goal is that field 2 is going to be done before the season. That's our goal.
that's the consensus we received, right?
Oh, and see everybody, yeah, it's good.
So I don't want it to come February and March and nothing's been done on it. We need to.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, it could though, because if we get into where it's fruiting and we can't do anything with the dirt, we're there anyway.
The dirt can be sitting out there and
But
waiting.
we have to chill all that.
I just
I'm
don't
just
want
saying, like, I said, there is a possibility,
There is the
but-
potential based on weather, it might not happen in the season, but we're gonna do it. We can.
You just have to get away from propane heat lamp.
Yeah, okay.
So that's out there.
Moving on, city attorney contract, did that email just? did that email
I
not
forwarded
right,
it
or just-
to everybody. Yeah.
And so all we really need here is an overview of what this might look like going forward. Possibly have 2 ways, we possibly have 2 kind of positions there that are always been under one. And the timing on when, how we have.
Yeah, so basically,
Tell us what.
our city attorney currently fills 2 roles as the city attorney and the prosecutor. For city attorney needs, I mean, I could contract that out pretty easy. It's the prosecutor needs that are immediate.
I'm sorry, he's resigned.
Yeah, so as of December 31st, yeah. So he'll continue, so that gives us a good 6 weeks, but it's the holiday season, limited on potential options, but basically, I just kind of need consensus from the council to basically seek proposals on city attorney.
Are you thinking of trying to separate it out into the 2? Prosecutor and city attorney, if you can't find someone that's willing to do both?
Potentially, that's something I thought of today when I was talking with the mayor. Maybe we have to contract someone, a prosecutor, and then we contract someone else for city. Because I could contract someone quite honestly, in Salt Lake and Timbuktu. To do to do the city attorney stuff, because I just need feedback and discussion, and
Right.
virtually we can do all those things, but it's the prosecutor stuff.
And how much are we dealing with the prosecutor stuff?
It's gotten pretty busy.
I would say it is completely overshadowed anytime that I, as the city manager, have gone from our city attorney, the prosecutor stuff. It's been hard, but he's also been very busy and spread thin because of the county, which is part of why he decided to resign. It's just spread thin in general, but yeah, I mean,
The crazy went this long.
yeah. What I can do too is I'll have discussions with him about, time. I mean, we know time spent based on billing, but just get a more practical sense of time spent and work involved. But yeah, Wednesdays, when I got here, he said Wednesdays are my day for Landing City. And usually we can catch each other occasionally on the fly in the mornings on Wednesdays, and then he's doing the prosecutor stuff most of the afternoon. So. And he does some.
With asking him about his time and stuff, I kind of go back to maybe digging too much and finding out maybe too much to where we scare someone off. I don't know if we want to be, I don't know if we want. Maybe
I see what you're saying.
I don't want to know.
Let's not
I
overcomplicate.
don't want him to say it so much that we absolutely get no one. I mean, it would be nice to know, but it would also be nice to have just some fresh.
You know what, I don't think he would say that, because in my conversations with him, it's always that I don't want to charge the city anything.
Right, I don't think he would either,
So, meaning that he tried to keep his time fairly limited. I think a couple things that I, as the city manager, would like, is I would like the city attorney to at least attend all of our city council meetings, because there's been times where you guys have questions, I'm like, I just don't know. And then at least a weekly meeting with the admission of the prosecutor. Those are like the three basic things that I care about the most, and then everything else can be kind of based on what the need is, right?
Or I would even say just be on call.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that it's the best use of their time if we're not talking about anything illegal, but, but we're asking them to sit through our exciting meetings. But I
Right.
would like for them, to know that we can.
Here's
we
what's
can
on the
call
agenda.
them, because we might potentially have questions. Yeah,
Exactly. So yeah, those three things are what really I'm looking for. It may be wise to separate out the prosecutor thing, but I don't know. That's something I want to talk to Kendall a little bit about, and then just see what's out there, who's out there.
Well, if we get some proposals, whoever those proposals come from, we can engage that conversation and say, just. ask
What's your
them.
interest?
Just say, we got two pieces to this puzzle.
Well, I think I put that in the request for proposals, is that
This
we're
and
looking
this,
for these
this and
roles,
or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they know right up front, I'll come in on Wednesdays and knock that out for you, but I really don't want to be on call for all the other stuff.
right?
Who knows what might come out? It's some flexibility, they don't necessarily have to be both.
Now that I'm thinking about it too, I need to talk to the judge. I don't know if our city attorney's made him aware of him resigning at that time, so also concerned for the judge as well, just holding forth, so. We'll have to get some-
He just mentioned that he'd be willing to contract after that date. If
If we
needed.
could find.
Would have to talk about the rate and things there. That's why I think if we can do it out now, maybe we can get someone in before that.
We've been using, Stephen Scott out of Moab to kind of pick this up on,
Defender.
him and Craig Household,
Yeah,
been doing now, so.
Well, so we have some possible flexibility if the two functions were separated, and somebody wanted to fix it to us that way, or combine, whatever works out. We have some flexibility on the timeline. These aren't quotes, these are requests for proposals, and so we can also say it's open till field.
right.
It's
It's contract.
just, yeah, Kendall's willing to continue that role, in the field within needs, I'm sure, so.
Well, because maybe even I could do this Kendall that continues maybe some of the city manager stuff. Because he doesn't have to worry about all the time and energy and the prosecutor stuff.
Yeah,
So,
He might put in one of the proposals, who knows?
right,
You
yeah.
know, so, yeah, we're open to some, it's nice that we have some flexibility to explore different ideas. See what this guy's good.
All right, we'll put something together and get it out next week.
Okay, you good there?
When do we expect that to go
Yeah. Well, next week, we'll shoot for next week. I'll try to,
It's something to slip
Thursday
through.
morning.
all I can think of is
out? Well, we
turkey,
put it
right?
out before, so it should be somewhat done, right? Because didn't we just, we did this just recently. didn't we?
The one we did for.
That was 8 years ago.
Well, no, we've recently done one since I've sat
We
here,
did.
we've redone.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we should have something.
The only other thing is I've just sent council a couple emails. Just with my, performance review and stuff, so I would love to sit down with each of you, just kind of talk about the questions. If you bring the chocolate cream pie,
All right,
I'll
sounds
be
like your
there.
husband's trying to get out of Thanksgiving with you.
All right, is anybody gonna surprise me with the whole session request? Hearing none, I would.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
First is Clerk, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
I